Hi, I'm Mike Brofman, and welcome to a new episode of Song and Wine, Brooklyn Art Song Society's series where we discuss our concerts and drink awesome wine from Waterfront Wines. I'm joined today with Christopher Herbert,
Hi.
baritone from New York Polyphony, who is joining us on our next concert on January 6th at the Brooklyn Historical Society, which is honoring the great symphonist Gustav Mahler through his songs, which are maybe not as well known as the symphonies, but equally awesome in many, many ways. Speaking of awesome, we have our awesome wine today from Waterfront Wines on 360 Furman Street in Brooklyn Heights. Waterfront Wines specializes in organic and all-natural wines from around the world. Today, this wine is we have a little sheet about it, Grumphof Grenache, which actually sounds German, but we were told it's Italian. It's the part of Italy that borders Austria, which is convenient for our Vienna season. And so let's give it a try.
Let's do it.
Cool. Cheers.
That's great.
It's really good. It's like kind of like sweet, but it's not like overbearing.
Not overbearing at all. It kind of looks like cranberry juice.
Yeah, it looks like fruit juice. This is probably a dangerous wine.
I know.
But thanks, Waterfront Wines.
Thank you.
So let's start with the symphonies. What would you say is your favorite of Mahler's symphonies, and why? And what does that sort of show about Mahler as a composer?
Of his 9, arguably 10 symphonies, number 5 is my favorite. I love the extended symphonic nature. It's 5-movement piece. There's something special about C-sharp minor. There's something very complicated and dense about it. And then the Adagietto movement is one of my favorite pieces of music ever.
Yeah. And I think 5 encapsulates sort of Mahler's idea of the symphony as a universe, probably a lot more than some of the other ones does. Of just basically every possible emotion and every possible sort of musical idea.
Like number 3 or number 8,
in one giant sort of just like potpourri of insanity, basically. Yeah. My personal favorite actually is, I think, an underdog is the 6th.
Oh yeah.
I think the 6th symphony is to me the most compelling from beginning to end. I think it works, except maybe for the 2nd, which is a great symphony. Also, it works the best as like one coherent piece of music rather than a bunch of great musical moments over time.
Yeah, the architecture's stronger.
Yeah, I think. But so the specific work that you're singing is Das Knaben Wunderhorn, which is a great set of sort of folk poetry.
Yeah.
So in working with this right now, what would you say is your favorite of these songs of yours, and why?
Of the songs that we're performing, my favorite is Wer hat das Liedlein erdacht. Unlike a lot of these long Mahler songs, that have a very extended structure, this one is compact. It's written as an ABA. It's surprisingly light and fluffy for Mahler, and I really enjoy the playfulness of it. I enjoy how active I get to be in the song.
Yeah, and I think Mahler is known as a sort of serious, highbrow composer, and I think what's great about this Knaben Wunderhorn is it shows his lighter side. I think, but even in his symphonies, I think, like all great composers, Mahler has a great sense of humor, or a very unique sense of humor, and I think that comes out in this sort of folksy charm, this sort of kind of like boisterous sort of peasanty thing. I think that's something that Mahler does well. And I love what Mahler is the first composer that I know of that uses exclamation points on his markings, like like forte.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he really means it. I remember at the end of one symphony that I had the score of, it says "Das End!" exclamation point. As if it's almost. But there's certain, and I think that even though it's sort of like a silly fact, it ties into that Mahler has this sort of exuberance and life in his music, and it's almost like just looking at the score, it sort of pops up with energy. What's interesting is the Knaben Wunderhorn is not cycle in sort of traditional sense. It's just a collection of songs that we're choosing to do an almost complete performance of it, but you can take one or two here and there. You can do them in any order you want, any But I think that is nice because then you get a more sort of kaleidoscopic effect, whereas the other cycles we're doing are from like Tintin Totenlieder, which on one level is one of my favorite pieces of music ever. I think it's perfect, but it's sort of monochromatic in its emotional content.
Follows the trajectory.
Yeah, and this has a certain freedom to it that I think can be very. It also is the poetry. I think is a lot more instead of it's being sort of like high poetry that you're supposed to sort of, be a little detached from. A lot of times you're a character, you're a person, you are the soldier, you are the sort of peasant boy, you are the drummer boy, and you can sort of, it almost some of them feel like little opera scenes almost, as close as Mahler ever got to sort of opera, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and because he conducted so much Wagner opera, which was so extreme for the time in terms of the number of forces. Yeah. I think that he saw that and the massive color palette that Wagner allowed, and he was able to take things even a step further than Wagner was, particularly in his symphonic writing. But you see in his songs too, you look at the vocal ranges in his songs, and you compare it to something from like Brahms, just like 10 years earlier. And his songs are a lot more difficult to sing technically. The demands on the singer are more. The dynamic, what he's asking for dynamically is more difficult. Yeah. And range-wise, you've got to either be a high mezzo or a high baritone to pull a lot of these things off. Yeah. He does write sort of, I mean, everything that I think Mahler does is sort of extreme in a lot of ways. Yeah. It's just a continuation of it. I also think that Mahler, I always find his orchestration fascinating because one of the things he does, and in these songs, and also in his symphonies, is he'll have this insanely large orchestra, but at any given moment, he's only using a small handful of the instruments. Yeah. And then I think it's particularly interesting that we're doing this concert, obviously, in the piano reductions, and I find that there's something that's revealed in that you sort of that there's even with the large orchestra, there's an inherent intimacy in its music that never goes away. I think that's why it's attractive that that despite the grandiosity and the overlongness and despite the sort of ridiculous nature of it, there's always that human element of sort of direct communication. He's fond of having a single instrument have a solo, which has this sort of, and I think that translates into his songwriting, where there's always a sense of like there's no barrier between what's being expressed in the audience. There's no, I think that style of grandiose, overlong symphonies can be very distancing to an audience. It can be alienating in that you feel like you're more in intellectual awe of it rather than emotionally feeling. You're just like, it's just impressive that this is an hour and a half and you haven't run out of ideas yet, or like your hand didn't cramp up so much from writing it on a certain level. It's funny, with Mahler, I don't generally get an intellectual awe of him. I'm more an intellectual awe of somebody like Brahms, because I find what he does to be so learned and so perfect in so many ways. Yeah. That you can almost take a very clinical approach. With Mahler, I feel like you have to take an emotional approach to what he does, because he took an emotional approach when he wrote it. It's just on the face emotional music. It's it's almost, dare I say, too emotional. Tacky, you mean? To the point, and on that where it's sort of so hard on singing, but also that he could be accused of just so getting carried away with his emotions that he forgets to make any sort of coherent formal sense. Yeah. But so we're almost out of wine, so we should probably. That's usually the cue. So we hope you'll join us on January 6th at the Brooklyn Historical Society. That's a Friday, to see part 3 of our Vienna series, Gustav Mahler. It's Songs of Wayfarer, Kinten Totenlieder, and Das Knaben Wunderhorn. The singers are baritone Sidney Outlaw, mezzo-soprano Hyuna Kim, Christopher Herbert, and soprano Christina Bachrach, myself, Mira Sigramama, and Brent Funderburk on the piano. You can check out the link for tickets on the side. And until next time, we'll be discussing the second Viennese school. We'll see you then. Thanks.